Good afternoon, everyone. EagleX from ATX EagleX Gaming here today, and I have a meta discussion video about one of the new cards we got in the BT9 set, Cool Boy, and discussing his merits and use in deck building and game plans when playing your deck. But first, I want to thank everyone who's supported the channel so far. Roughly 60% of you guys aren't subscribed that watch my content, and I really would appreciate it if you can show me likes, comments, subscribes. Just let me know I'm going in the right direction for this type of content. But let's go ahead and have this discussion about Cool Boy as a card in decks. And the first thing we'll talk about is him as a tutor. So I want to compare Cool Boy to some other tutoring cards that decks often consider, first being Memory Boost, second being Analog Youth. And the first thing we want to take into account is after the secondary effect of each of these cards. So like if you use Cool Boy, you get the memory and the draw. If you use Memory Boost, you get 2 memory back. If you use Analog Youth, you gain a memory and hatch an egg. So if we use those secondary effects once to put these cards in basically a more fair way to compare them, Cool Boy is on paper a 1 memory tutor for top 3 cards of your deck for 2 specific and potential targets of your deck, being the X anti option and an X antibody Digimon. The second card we want to talk about is Analog Youth. It is a 1 memory tutor top 3 cards for any generic target, being any Digimon, not color restricted, not level restricted, no trait restriction, which helps them be very splashable in decks. Then you have Memory Boost. It's a 1 memory tutor top 4 for a generic colored target. So when you're looking for cards in your game plan, it could be any of the levels in your deck, assuming it is the color of the Memory Boost. And there's one for every color, so generically there is a 1 memory tutor top 4 card for every deck. The bigger downside to Memory Boost is it can be blocked by memory floodgates, so like Madoki Betamon, Gazimon do come up against that card. But that's just these cards from a general secondary once used perspective. But one thing I really want to point out, at the moment, Cool Boy is really hard to unbrick yourself with to grab that correct level. So if you hatch with no rookie in raising, playing Cool Boy, oftentimes you won't find a lot of targets. The one big exception is to Alphamon as a deck, because everything is an X antibody. But that's just a point I want to make when we're talking right now about these tutors, because like if you use Analog Youth, you can grab that rookie. If you play Red Memory Boost, you can grab that rookie, assuming you're playing the correct colors for the Memory Boost. So it generically can help you unbrick and grab that rookie, grab that 4. Meanwhile, Cool Boy is restricted to typically 4 cards that can help you unbrick at a certain level for most decks. Like I was saying, Alphamon being the one really big exception. But now if we look at Cool Boy from a math perspective, I want to give a quick shout out to Bunny Punch Gaming. He is a local here that helps me do all this math and write this up in a really nice document. So shout out to him a whole lot. It was really cool seeing this broken down. So let's go ahead and discuss this from a very math-oriented perspective. So decks are made of 50 cards, and if you have 14 X antibody trait Digimon in your deck, on average there's going to be 1.4 Digimon in security, and likewise it would be the same thing for your hand. So if you account for 1 in security and 1 in your opening hand of 5 cards, you can assume there's going to be 12 remaining X anti-Digi in your 40 card deck, along with 2 X anti-option cards. And this is going to help maximize these Cool Boy draws and kind of show a realistic perspective. So if we're going first and we play this card after hatching, the odds that we have here are shown on those 12 Digimon in deck and 2 options in your deck as well. So as a generic breakdown, to get +1 card select from Cool Boy, only being able to pull a single card. So it's like you can pull one of these 14 cards. It's roughly a 74% chance. This is a cumulative odds that you have to look at though, because we have a breakdown here that we have to be mindful of. If you're going through those top 3 cards and you can pull just 1 card out of those 3 cards, it's roughly a 46% chance. But then it's a separate scenario to have 2 valid targets and only 1 of them selectable. So like in scenario 1, you have 1 X anti-Digimon, 2 others that are not tutorable. Second scenario, you have 2 valid targets to tutor, but only 1 selectable. And then another scenario, you could have 3 targets, only 1 selectable, and then there is the chance you get the Digimon and the option. And that's how you get up to roughly a 74% chance. But then you also take into account there is a chance you're going to be whiffing, and this is roughly 26-27% of the time that you just won't grab anything with Cool Boy off his initial tutor. But then that small chance of getting an extra card in hand, equating to roughly 8%, is not horrible on paper. It's like, the math part of Cool Boy is not horrible for an average deck. But this brings up the next point I really want to emphasize. The next point I want to emphasize is about cards that he bot decks and doesn't tutor. And I'm going to explain this through the perspective of a few different decks here. So the first is Greymon X. This was one of the cool new decks that we got in this format. And when we play Grey X, your whole goal is to basically OTK your opponent, and using the X antibody line as additional support for your existing stuff or your new stuff. So if we put this as a very generous scenario where you have no X antis in hand or security, there's only a 14% chance you'll whiff, which is totally fine, but you have to be mindful of the key cards to playing the deck. Starter deck Greymon being one of those key cards to get that extra check and almost guarantee the OTK. Metal Grey X is a key card. BT1 War Grey, I argue, is a very key card for this deck if you're planning to OTK. And the X antibody option. Now, it's really mindful to keep in mind what you bot deck. If you don't have a Greymon or you don't have a correct level to unbrick yourself, Cool Boy is not going to help out in those scenarios or finding a BT1 War Grey. War Grey X is really cool, but his game plan to play for a control-oriented board when you aren't going against a board-oriented format makes it a little bit more difficult to really utilize him and say this is a key card in my deck. But if you play a Cool Boy, you can bot deck any of the Searcher Agus besides X Anti-Agu. You can bot deck your starter Greymons. You can bot deck your promo level 5s, which aren't as important. The Metal Grey X is the more important card. And then you can also bot deck your BT1 War Grey, your other Tamers, and your Memory Boost. Nothing that you would normally tutor with other cards anyways, but just something that you have to think about when you play a Cool Boy, and especially in the format we are in for BT9 at the moment. Similar concept for Garuru X. However, Garuru X, you really need to see your level 5 promo Wear Garuru, as that enables you to get an extra check. It lets you get restands. The Wear Garuru X is also very key to getting that inheritable online faster, getting another restand, and then the X anti option. So I'm not bashing on Cool Boy in these decks because I feel like he has some utility in this deck. However, if you're missing that rookie in your opening hand, he's not going to help out a whole lot, and you don't really need it for memory thresholds in this deck. If you have Davis at 3, you're able to do a lot of plays after you promote a level 4 from Raising. So it's just another thing to keep in mind. There's roughly a 25% chance in a similar scenario that you do whiff with Cool Boy in this deck, raising his odds even more, and this is putting it as favorable as possible. So really do be mindful when you include Cool Boy in a deck like this, where you really need to see that level 5 Wear Garuru. Playing him down will not let you find him, and if you're playing for a second stack or a slower game plan, then you're kind of going against like the whole build of Wear Garuru, as it is a more aggressive combo-oriented deck, and you're slowing yourself down with the card typically. Now, the final point I really want to emphasize is Cool Boy is a great late game card. He is a great card to hit memory thresholds you normally cannot hit. So if you're expecting like immediate results because you want to turbo up to an OTK, he's typically not going to be a great card for that. But in decks like Gaimon, he is amazing because you're going for slower board control. You're trying to gain advantage through blockers, generating positive value on board tempo. And then when you turbo up to your stacks, you have lots of really awkward memory thresholds that need 4 memory. The Metal Grey, the Black War Grey. The guy was kind of costly too. And Cool Boy helps aid in those memory thresholds when you play a deck. So when you're playing this deck, you're also going to try building up 2 really large stacks that are hard to deal with protection from very traditional removal. So when you're playing Cool Boy, he is definitely a more late game value card in my opinion, or for decks that say everything's an X antibody like Alphamon. That's my one big Disclaimer that I've mentioned a time or two here now. So, in summary, Cool Boy, as a 2-cost tutor, he has some utility, but you have to be mindful of what you actually need to have your deck function. Does your deck win and function only with the X-Ante cards, or do you actually need the non-X-Antibody cards for your deck to really get that push and move forward? Second, deck building is not always linear and is often format dependent. If we're in a fast OTK-oriented format, Cool Boy definitely slows down your game plan if you're trying to OTK your opponent faster, but if you're trying to play a more mid-range or control deck, or we're in a slower format, Cool Boy really has a better chance to shine, as he'll be able to gain you advantage in that late game and out-resource your opponent. I'm curious on your guys' thoughts. Drop them in the comments below what you think about Cool Boy as a card in game, because I think in the future he'll be even better if there's more X-Ante targets. At the moment, in BT9, there's some decks that can use him for memory thresholds, but for the tutoring part, he's not the best in the world, as he kind of goes against what you're trying to do in the deck. That being said, guys, take care and have a nice day.